The Scene projects are brought to you by these fine sponsors: Cliff Avenue Upholstery and Restoration, Chevy Girl Advertising and Booking, Sunny Radio, and SiouxFallsPodcast.com. Welcome into a very exciting episode of The Scene. I'm your host, Bubba Starts, and with me today is my good buddy, Tyler Herwig. Tyler, welcome back to the show, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, well, you're hard to catch up to.
You're not wrong. I stay busy.
The last two texts I've gotten from you have said, hey, man, sorry, I just got back from Nashville and I'm running like a chicken with my head cut off. And I'm just like, you don't have to apologize for that, buddy.
That's the Minnesotan way, though. We apologize for everything, whether we're right, we're wrong, we're in between. So
yes,
that's how it goes.
Well, you're staying true to your roots then. Buddy, I'm so proud of you. I just want to start there. You've just been having a huge year. Let's just go from the awards show. We caught up there. That's where we met. And the last time we talked on the podcast, you were feeling all the feelings of that. And now, after a summer of the highest highs, Tyler, how are you feeling now?
Still feeling pretty good. I mean, things have just been moving in ways that I did not think were really ever going to happen quite as quickly. But things just once the ball starts rolling down the hill, it just keeps gaining momentum, and you go faster and faster and faster. And so adapting to that new speed of life and the new changes have been really exciting, but definitely challenging.
And one thing I want to focus on, because it's something that you focus on a lot, is your sobriety through all of this, right? And none of this is possible without that. Am I correct to assume that for you?
Oh, 100%. I mean, if I were still making some of the choices that I used to make, I probably wouldn't be having and finding the success that I found right now. But one of the quotes that I heard a while back that really helps keep me on the straight and narrow is that as an artist, you have to decide which side of the stage do you want to stand on. Do you want to be out in the crowd, partying, drinking, going crazy, or do you want to be up on that stage, bringing music to life? And sometimes that means you have to put aside some of those old choices and behaviors. And I made my decision about 5 years ago now, which side of the stage I want to be on. And I've focused every single day for the last 5 years on really making the stage mine and bringing to life music.
And I want our young listeners to remember Tyler is one of the most talented people we know. He's also one of the most dedicated people that we know on this show. And it took him 5 years to finally feel like, hey, this is actually starting to feel like it's really going somewhere, right? I mean, obviously being accepted into the CMAs, going down to CMA Fest, right? Like being a part of the Country Music Association, right? Like these are huge things for someone who has been grinding, like you said, for 5 years as a sole focus, right? Obviously you've probably had jobs and things like that, but as a sole focus of your life, right, is to make music. I wrote a huge article in our magazine yesterday, kind of recapping that, but hitting right on that, man. That's why I'm an artist. I don't know, like my life feels hollow if I'm not doing this.
Yep.
Completely.
Absolutely.
And that's not to say that my family doesn't feel that. I know you have a young family, another one on the way. Congratulations to you. I started following your wife, so I've followed through the whole pregnancy, I feel like now. And it's been pretty awesome to watch. And that's probably why I love you so much, Tyler, and why I admire you and I'm so proud of you is like I see your family. And in some ways, that's kind of what the show is, right? Is getting to meet these people so you feel personally invested, right? In these wins. Yeah. So what are you doing in Nashville? You've been down there the last couple of months. You're I'm assuming flying back and forth.
Yep. I've been doing a lot of flying back and forth. I have been working with a label to create some new music down there and have it released directly to FM radio. I actually did that for one song a little over a year ago. Would have been September of 2023 is when that song was released, and it charted at 8 in the US and 4 in the UK on indie radio. And so we decided that with that success, it was time to dive in, record some more songs, and plan out a really solid and consistent release schedule, and hopefully blow things up, get to the next level, and see where things go.
What does a trip to Nashville look like for Tyler Herwig?
Oh gosh, for me, it's actually really boring. The first couple times I went, I wanted to go do all of the touristy things, check out the Opry, the Hall of Fame, all the labels on Music Row, all that stuff. But now when I go there, it's just me going to work. So I have a small apartment in Nashville, and I go and I sit there until the label calls. And then they call, I go and record or write or have a meeting with one of my many managers. And then I go back to my apartment and I watch Netflix and respond to emails. It's really not quite as glorious as people might think. It's actually pretty boring nowadays. But it's just because I've been there so much, it's kind of lost some of the tourist kind of glory, but I still go out every once in a while and catch up and make connections with other musicians that are out there grinding, because they might have, one little gold nugget that could help me get to the next level, or better yet, I might be able to share some of my experiences with the people down there and even bring them up to Minnesota or the Midwest to share their music.
Do you find that there are a lot of people down there like you that are commuting to work occasionally and then going home to families and things like that in Nashville now?
Oh, absolutely. I think particularly since the pandemic, Nashville has changed quite a bit. There's just been this influx of people who, the world shut down, they picked up a guitar and they decided, hey, this is my time to go live my dream. And so the amount of artistry in Nashville, I think, is continuing to evolve. But I've personally seen an influx of people that don't live in Nashville coming to try and work with some of the labels down there. Or even I've seen quite a few members of the Midwest CMO, which is a great organization you and I are both a part of.
Talk about it a lot on the show.
All the time. But there's a lot of CMO artists that are working with labels out in Nashville nowadays, and I love it. I mean, I think it's great that the Midwest artists are starting to go down there and find those connections, because they do have some of the best labels and producers and managers in the world, all based in one city. They're not always hard to find if you know where to look.
Well, and I think it's becoming easier because we can connect online, where I can just stay here. I fly into Nashville on a Wednesday through Friday. I can get all the recording or writing sessions or whatever I want to done, and then fly home, play my gigs back home for the weekend still. Is that kind of in essence what you're doing, is kind of like flying into Nashville for the week of work, being available, like you said, is mostly just kind of hanging out, right? Waiting for the call. And, there's only so much you can do between 8 and 5 o'clock in Nashville, right? Like most of the clubs and all the things are happening at night. So
yeah, for the most part, that's pretty much it. I'll fly out on either a Monday morning or a Sunday night, and I'm back home in Minnesota by Wednesday night, Thursday morning. Kind of depends on flight prices. But it's a real short trip, and I make a lot of those short trips, just especially with my performance schedule. I'm still doing about 280 shows a year. So most of the time that's Wednesday through Sunday afternoon, consistently year round.
And your
so
labels,
I have to make all these short trips.
Right. And your labels and your managers, I'm sure, are aware that that's what feeds your family, right? I'm assuming that your relationships with these people, it's not the record industry of 40 years ago, right? Where it's the big wigs, it's the, classic Pink Floyd, have a cigar situation, right? Come in, boys, your life is set. We'll take care of everything, right? That's not the way the music industry is now. And in some ways it's much better, because it is a true industry. It's full of independent people. I mean, even the labels aren't the large conglomerates that they used to be. All of the, because what happened was you had all the indie labels in the 90s. They all got sucked up by the big ones, right? Because that was the cool thing. And then now, because the model's completely broken, all of these independent labels have kind of been spilled back out on their own again.
Yeah, and several of them have kind of morphed into what are called development labels, which is essentially a label that gets a hold of an artist. They work with you for a few years, and their goal long term is actually to sell you to a bigger label. And so that's the kind of label that I'm working with right now. Their goal is to sell me to a larger label once I am established enough on a national scale to be profitable. And so everybody kind of wins that way.
Which was exactly the function of, the original labels. And then that became the independent labels thing, right? And then like even the independent labels are big enough now that we're like, we don't even do that, right? And the whole game has just changed. I don't know that what we do is even possible 10 years ago. I know it's not. I lived it. I think you're a lot younger than I am. So, in 2004, when I graduated high school, like, Napster and shit was still on. Like, you know what I mean? LimeWire and different things like that were it. So you just look at where it's come to and what we're able to do now with independent media, right? Like this wasn't, it's been around, right? The podcasting has been around, but in the last, really in the last month, we've seen that podcast and independent media are king. And if you can put out some really great content, you can build a following. And if you can find a community to serve, which is what we're finding, right? I'm here to serve you. I'm here to let you tell your story, Tyler. To share your wins with our listeners and with me. And so we can all learn, right? So we can do that and to know what Nashville looks like. Because I think for a lot of us Midwest people that like, we don't know the nuts and bolts of it. And the MCMO, the Midwest Country Music Organization, has been cool for me because I've never had that one point of separation from Nashville before.
Yeah.
I've never had a firsthand account of like, oh, you're just kind of hanging out and writing. And it's like, well, I could do a lot of that stuff from home. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that can be done. It's the rooms, it's the connections, it's the people. Can you talk about some of the writing rooms are still an anomaly to me. Do you spend a lot of time in the writing rooms while you're down there and kind of working on songs? You say you're writing new music.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's always a really interesting environment because you don't always know who you're going to walk into the room with, right? So, and I definitely am one that believes like there has to be a connection between the people that are participating in the co-write for the song to really come alive. Like if you aren't on the same page with the story you're trying to tell or the vibe of the song, it creates these barriers. One of the cool things though about the Nashville rooms when you're doing co-writes is that a lot of the guys are so experienced. They have written thousands of songs with every single person you could possibly imagine, every personality type, every kind of person. And they just have so much experience that writing a song gets really easy, almost annoyingly easy, because you can walk in and pump out a song in 45 minutes and it's not even like a rough draft. Like you just get the final version of the song and you move on to the next one, which for someone like me who tends to overcomplicate things and I like to kind of overwork a lot of my songs to where I get into the production phase and I actually have to pull back on some stuff, that can be kind of frustrating, but it is a lot of fun nonetheless to work with the people that are so experienced. If anyone's ever looking to do a co-write, head to Nashville or give me a call. I'll
well, Tyler, I'd love to work with you because I'm one of those guys that it comes too easy to, right? And the way that I describe it is that I'm really good at throwing up that antenna, and I've I'm pretty good with words. I'm able to meld that idea in my head out pretty easily to where I am kind of a first draft. Okay, there's the song. And then I walk away from it. Right. And then it's almost that childlike, no, I'm done with that. Like I built the Lego thing. There was the instructions. They were downloaded from source or creator or whatever you want to call it. Right.
Yep.
That's what formulated. That's it. And if you want something different than that, then you're going to have to come back again. I've been listening to a lot of Rick Rubin lately. I'm actually working through his book. And it speaks a lot about that too. Like when you have it, stick it through all the way to the end, right? If you're chasing that thing, it came to you for a reason. It's our job to chase that down as artists. And like, that is the artist way. I was like, man, that's awesome to hear because that's kind of always been the way that I do it because I never come back to it the same. Right. Yeah. And then I think it's just a human experience to overthink it and to tear it apart. And before you know it, you don't even have the thing that you started with, right? Like that original inspiration's totally gone. So, oh, nice, man. So how many songs are you going to put on the next album? You just writing until it's like, we got it? Or how does that work?
So I decided to start small so I can make adjustments. We're starting off with a little 3-song EP that will all 3 songs will be pushed to radio in kind of a strategic release plan that we've come up with. Yeah, the 3 songs that we're doing, I'm really excited to tell these stories and sing these songs. They revolve around the same things I always write about, but in a way that I think is really really tangible for the listener. So it's going to be about my wife, my daughter, and recovery. And those are the 3 topics that I pretty much always write about, because those are the 3 things that are most important to me as an artist and just as a person. And so I'm really excited to see where these go. There's one song in particular that I cannot wait to release. It's called First to Be Last. And the premise is that I may not have been your first kiss, but I'm going to be the last one. I may not have been your first date, but I'm going to be your last date. That kind of thing. And it's just got a fun play on words, a great hook, and I could see it going pretty far on radio.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and you've had some of that success, right? Like, you've seen songs do things, right? And yeah. I think that's so important, and it gives all the rest of us confidence. And I think it kind of starts with like the MCMO show. For me, that's the first time I've really ever been on multiple radio stations. Like, I had a buddy spin one at our radio station one time, right? Like, that's nothing. To have something that got spun for a month or something during the summer months and was out there a little bit, it's like, I've never had that before. No, unfortunately for me, I wasn't like touring around in any of those areas at the time and really doing anything, so I wasn't able to necessarily capitalize on that. But now, seeing the pathway, you're like, oh, I can repeat that. So I guess what I'm saying, like, for you, with a song, with an idea, with a feeling, right? Knowing what has worked in the past, it's easy to go, man, this one's really going to do something, because those other pathways have already been kind of greased, right? You've established a relationship with some of these stations, some, they hear your name. Like, people have to realize that, like, that's the game, like that it takes. And that's why it takes time as an artist to do that. Especially now, because the information is so diffused through the internet, right? There's so many channels that the bubbles are coming off of, right? That sometimes it's hard for that. It's not like back in the day where you had 3 stations, right? Like, if someone was on TV in the 50s, you were on one of 3 stations. Everyone in the country saw you. So it's really cool to watch you pave a way, not just for yourself, but like, the further you go, the further we're all able to go behind you. And that's your servant's heart, in every way, Tyler, every single way. The way you're serving the community of recovering addicts and active addicts, right, that are going to hear these songs and hear your story and change those lives, knowing now the power that your songs have, right? Knowing that they can go out and do these things. It's enabling you to then write with that intention now. Yeah, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And I mean, going back to just the connections you can have when you start releasing, I remember when I had my very first song play on one radio station, and I was so excited. And it really didn't unlock too many doors for me, but I kept at it. I kept pressing other stations and other people to just give my song a try, see what the listeners say. And ever since last September, when my song charted for the first time, that was a really cool experience. And that unlocked a ton of doors that I never thought were going to be open. I even got the opportunity because of that to play at the CMA Fan X this year. And now with how well my song charted in the United Kingdom over the last 12 months, I'll be headlining a tour in the UK next year, which is really exciting. And all of it is just because I kept failing forward. I said, hey, I can do better. I can do better. I can do better. Well, and I learned from the mistakes in those experiences.
Exactly. And realizing that, Tyler, not all doors are physical. Some of the doors are in our own mind, right? Like, absolutely. We have to walk these pathways mentally, right? And going through this. And if you're I'm a huge sports fan, and that's guys like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, and like and these elite athletes, the reason they're so good is because they have run that simulation in their mind a million times. Yep. And for artists that are walking a completely new path, which each and every one of us are. Like, that's what's crazy. This possibility to be an independent artist and to do this has never been available before. It's never been like this. And we're out here telling the stories of a generation that has been through it all. You know, mine and yours and these kids that are coming of age now, right? Like, we've been through some just in the last 5 years, right? Like, and we're all starting to tell these stories now, and it's an amazing thing. So all of us are trailblazers. Every single one of us are learning from one another and moving this thing forward. And yeah, that's why we got to record these conversations, right? So that we can post them up and everybody else can learn from them too. I just watched Joe Rogan and Josh Brolin. We're talking on Rogan's podcast. It just released yesterday, I think. It'd be really important for you to listen to that one. I don't know if you're a big fan of listening to podcasts, but
huge fan.
It was a good one because Josh went through it all. He was talking about, shooting cocaine at 15 years old.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And just like, holy Brolin, what? And this is one of the most talented actors of my time, right? One of my favorites. And hearing his story is just like, man, how many millions of people are going to see this and change those lives? And it's like, if we change one life, isn't that a life worth lived? And then if you can write songs that are changing, I mean, for a guy like I'm certain for you, Jelly Roll's got to be a huge inspiration out there, right? Like, it's our time. It's our time, Tyler. It's our time to tell our stories of the addictions. And I relate a lot to you because I've been there, right? Like, I've been to prison because of my drug addictions and things, right? Like, it's our time to tell those stories. And I'm so grateful that you're out there telling yours and that your story is getting the attention that it deserves.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I mean, like I said, it took a lot of failure, but you fail forward, you learn from your mistakes. And then sharing that experience to help one person not make those same mistakes is really what makes it all worthwhile.
We are living lessons.
Amen.
And now we get to share it, right? So, Tyler, I know you're a busy man. I've gotten 20 minutes of your day. I'm so grateful for it. I'm so proud of you. Make sure you give a big hug to the wife and the kid and the baby to come. You just keep on going, man. You make sure you travel safe. We're gonna keep you in our prayers always. And just anything else you want to plug? I know you got music and stuff. I don't know how much you can say, but go ahead and plug anything. Most of our listeners in the Midwest, if you got some shows coming up.
I mean, the main thing, if you guys want to see my schedule to find a show, is go give me a like or a follow on social media or YouTube or TikTok. You can find me at Tyler Herwig Music. You can also live stream every single one of my shows on TikTok. So if you guys want to see what you're missing out on every single day, TikTok is your place. And go check me out on Spotify. Let me know what you guys think of my originals. Love them or hate them. I need the feedback.
That's awesome, Tyler. Well, you have a great day, man. And we'll talk again soon.
Man. Stay blessed.
Thanks for listening. Remember to follow the Scene Projects on all your social media channels and get even more content at thesceneprojects.com.